Welcome to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. I'm Stuart Wellborn, a British author and former therapist, and each week I sit down with Wa-Na-Nee-Che, a spiritual elder from Turtle Island, to explore the deeper truths behind healing, ceremony, and connection to Source. Okay, good evening, Wa-Na-Nee-Che. I'll let you start.
Yeah, I've been getting quite a few visions lately, and they're not very nice. And when in the vision, it showed the creator, God, whatever you want to call it, the supreme being, as being frustrated with the human beings. And he said he was going to send a lot more, how would you call it, a lot more devastating things to the earth because they're not listening. He said there's going to be more earthquakes, more volcanoes, more tsunamis, uh, more flooding, more drought. He said, and then if the humans don't listen, then he'll get basically destroy 80% of humanity because we're not going into who we're supposed to be. If you're going to find out who you want to be, people aren't doesn't seem to be interested. It's like they say, "Can you tell me?" No, I can't tell you because if I tell you now it belongs to me. But I said, I'll give you the tools so that what the message means and basically who you are, because you have to find out for yourself. Because if you don't see it and if you don't do it, it's like saying, for instance, you call in a plumber because you don't know anything about plumbing. Well, why don't you learn more about plumbing and then you don't have to call the plumber in? So people don't understand how simple it is for them to get on their pathway because all they have to do is utilize the tools that we talked about and they can find their pathway and they know exactly who they are. I mean, even now, when I look at on Facebook and everything, all these people selling things that they're selling gifts that they don't have. But people are so desperate that they want to be this, they want to be that, rather than being who they're supposed to be. Well, then they're led down the wrong path and they never find out what they're supposed to do.
Do you want to talk about the actual tools? Because I don't want to be rude, but you've talked about this several times now that people
Yeah.
need to follow the path. Do you want to actually talk about the specific tools? Because
Well,
we haven't talked about the tools for a while.
right, the most important tool is tobacco because tobacco really is a sacred. And because it became fashionable, Sir Walter Riley, tobacco basically is used all over the world today, but it's used in a way that is not sacred. They sit there and they put all kinds of chemicals now to hook you into it. So the tobacco is no longer in its original form. Uh, but tobacco basically, we utilize it. Say, for instance, you get a very severe burn. And if you take tobacco and you take sage and you put it in your mouth and then you put it on that burn, within about 2 or 3 days, the burn's gone away.
Carry on.
Okay. So again, tobacco in its sacred form is a healer. It's also basically something that you can utilize to communicate with the creator, communicate with the life force energies, communicate with the universal energies. It's a way of saying that you would like them to listen to what you need to do. But you have to be careful what you ask for because most of the time you need to ask for clarification. And what you can do is you can sit there. I don't know what my pathway is. Can you show me in a vision what I'm supposed to be doing so that I can find who I am? It's just like I did a little ceremony. I had about 40 kids from, well, young adults, I should say, that basically were doing volunteer work. And they came over to the house because they wanted to participate in a Mother Earth launch. So we got done, and I was explaining a little bit how you can make a telephone call with tobacco. And of course, they kind of thought that was silly. So I said, let's all go outside. I said, so I built a little fire, took tobacco out, and it was tobacco that was given to me by a medicine man, medicine bear chief. So I sat there and I took the tobacco and I sprinkled it on the fire and said, medicine bear chief, give me a call. And then we went in the house. They said, well, did it work? I said, yeah, he's going to call me in 15 minutes. And I said, what? Well, I heard him. Sure you did, you know. And we're sitting there and they're all looking at their clock and all of a sudden, it's 15 minutes. The phone rang. And I said to one of the people, answer it. He said, hello. Or hello. He said, who's this? It's Medicine Bear Chief. There's Wa-Na-Nee-Che there. He sent me a message for him to call him. You should have seen the look on their faces, you know. So little things like that, you know, people start to believe once that happens because for some reason we have to see it. And I said, one of the reasons why people are walking away from their spiritual pathway is the fact that they want to see a miracle. And if they can see a miracle, boom, okay, I'm a follower. And if we look at the teachings of Jesus Christ, he performed miracles. And he had hundreds of thousands of people that we'd go out and he would gather and he would talk to them. And because he performed certain things that people perceived as miracles, everybody wanted to be around him. But
Didn't work out too well for him in the end, though, did it?
No. And I said, if all the teachings he did, how long did it last before the evilness nailed him to a cross? And I always ask that question. I said, you know, from the Creator, I said, Jesus was supposed to be your son. Why did you make him suffer? You know, if he was so connected, why did he have to suffer so much? And I said, the other thing is the teachings he brought was accepted by hundreds and thousands of people. And I said, as soon as he passed, what happened to it? All of a sudden, everybody just walked away because he wasn't there anymore. So he never set up a system that would prevent the evilness from taking over again. And I always say that was the mistake for Jesus to do, was that he never set up a system that would make sure that the hatred would not come back again. And now hatred is overwhelming.
Did you get an answer for why he was allowed to be sacrificed then?
Yeah, so he sacrificed was for nothing.
No, you said you asked the question. Did you get an answer?
Not yet.
No.
I'll probably get an answer. It's lucky it wasn't you. And then, like, okay, tobacco is probably one of the main tools because you sit there and you can actually, it depends on what you're asking. If you're asking for help from the life force energies, then you take tobacco and you offer it to the four directions. But you always have to go clockwise so that everything is balanced. So you just basically say, hear me, and put it on the ground. Say, if you start off with the north, hear me. Take some more tobacco, you face the east, you say, hear me. Then you face the south, and you put tobacco, and you say, hear me, you put it there, and then you go to the west and do the same thing. That is basically utilized so that you can get their attention that you're going to be asking them a question. And then when you sit down with put tobacco in your hand, you talk, take the tobacco in your hand and you put it by your mouth and you talk. And as you talk, you're putting the energy into the tobacco of what your question is. Now, generally, it'll take 4 days for you to get an answer. If you don't get an answer, you're asking the question in the wrong way. And you have to repeat it, but you do it in a different way. Now, if it doesn't happen again, you're not meant to know the answer yet. have to be patient and wait for it. That's what the tobacco can be used, yeah, in all kinds of ways, and it depends on who you want to contact. If you want to contact and talk to Mother Earth, you do the 4 directions, but then you add a direction for Mother Earth. If you want to talk to the universal energies, you go to a 6 area. And then if you want to talk to the creator, you put tobacco in the center.
When you do the 4 directions then, and you said you sit there talking into the tobacco, does it matter which direction you're facing then?
Whatever direction you face when you start, just go clockwise. Like if you're going to east, then you start with the east, you go to south, west, north. If you start in the south, you go south, west, north, east. So it doesn't make any difference what direction you start with.
Now, when you're talking about directions there, traditionally, in a lot of old traditions, should I say, each direction's got, connections to earth, air, fire, water. You've got emotional things, material subjects. You look to the earth, facing the earth. If your question, would that affect your questioning, should I say, then?
Not really. It all depends. You don't ask what you feel it with your heart. And most of the times when you want something emotionally, you'll get emotional. Sometimes even tears come out of your eyes because that means you're asking something that's very sincere and very close to you. So, again, that's one way of doing it. Another way of connecting is just take 2 rocks and walk in a circle. If all of a sudden you feel something, put that rock down and then continue your journey. And if you happen to come back again, all of a sudden you get that same feeling where that same rock is, that's where you're going to get your answer. That's when you need to offer tobacco and ask your question.
Another question then, back to the circular thing. When you said you were sitting in the middle, you talking to the tobacco. What do you do with the tobacco after?
You just put it on the ground.
Right.
What I usually do is I like to do the ceremony around a tree. And then when I get done, I just put the tobacco on one of the limbs,
Okay.
one of the branches.
You said, if I'm remembering correctly, if you want a message from the mother, was it? You go to a 5th direction.
Yeah, to Mother Earth, yeah.
Yeah. Does that have to be any particular direction then?
No, just put it where you want it within the circle.
Okay. Same for the other 2 then, wouldn't it? For the creator.
Yeah.
Okay. Carry on then with your stones as well then.
Yeah, that's another. There's several ways. Like I said, you can simply sometimes, if you wake up and you've had, I say, a vision, and you didn't like that vision or a premonition, let's say, if you had a premonition, you don't like it, you can simply, when you wake up, take tobacco. I don't like that premonition. Can you change it? You put it down, and about 95% of the time, you go back into that dream or vision, and it changes.
Okay, we haven't talked about this actually since probably one of the earlier episodes, but you talk about tobacco. If, for example, some of your audience is going to be in the UK, we may have people in America. What kind of tobacco should they use?
Well, unfortunately, we can't get pure tobacco except maybe a few places. I have one place in Portugal that basically he grows the tobacco with no chemicals. So I still got a bag full of, but I only use that for special occasions.
That's good
So
for you, Wa-Na-Nee-Che, but what about all your audience? What do they use?
any tobacco will work. It's the intent that you use tobacco that is important.
So over here we have brands like Golden Virginia and Old Holborn that's rolling tobacco. Could people use that, for example?
Yeah.
But not like cigarettes.
No, you can actually use a cigarette and break it up. And
Oh,
use
you
the tobacco.
could.
Yeah.
They're expensive over here though, because
Oh, yeah.
they cost about, I don't know the exact exchange rate, but roughly $20 for a packet of cigarettes over here now.
Yeah. Well, over here, it hasn't been too bad. I can get a carton of 10 for $72.
10 packs of 20.
Yeah, it's about $7 a pack.
Yeah, when you come over, bring me some.
Well, I used to get that what do you call it? The Indian tobacco. Was it called Spirit? Spirit
I had some of
something?
the tobacco off you when I came to your weekend retreat that time, but that's like 10 years ago. So,
Yeah. Now that was a pretty pure, but uh, Reynolds took over the company, American Spirit, and they started putting chemicals in it. But that used to basically, I used to one of those little packs that you probably bought. I mean, I was selling for what, 5 or 7 pounds.
you know what's really annoying for me? Just a little side tangent to do with it. My next door neighbour, he moved out 3 years ago, but he once asked me if I wanted some tobacco off him. Um, it was vacuum sealed in packs, and it was just the tobacco leaf,
Uh-huh.
big pieces of it. And I was like, oh no, I don't smoke roll ups. I'm like, I wish I'd took that off him now because like there was loads of it, and I think he threw it away.
The reason why I think to put additives in it because the real tobacco that has no pollution in it, no nicotine or anything, it smokes fast. It's gone.
It's tobacco, just tobacco that was in your pipe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
because I
I
remember.
usually keep that one from Portugal, uh, separate. I used to have a good friend in Kentucky, and he was always getting me tobacco that wasn't loaded with chemicals.
I just remember that at that weekend, once you'd finished, you said, "Is anybody a smoker? Do you want to finish that off?" And it blew me mind.
So what I'll do is on the internet, I'll search and see if there's any tobacco growers that grow it without chemicals, and then I could probably just get it directly from them.
Well, if you can get it, because obviously the listeners and viewers, if they want to do the ceremony, they're going to be interested in getting it, and you might be able to, sell it online.
Yeah, the other thing too, if they want to find out if there's a spirit in the house, when they make something and they put all their spices and everything, it really tastes good. Put it in a wooden bowl and then put the food in the wooden bowl and leave it overnight. Or you don't even have to leave it overnight. You have to leave there, I think, for about 15, 20 minutes and then taste it. If there's no taste there, that means you've got spirits.
Really?
They suck the flavor out. So when you go to eat it, there's no flavor. I learned that lesson when one of the first things I went through, I had all these indigenous people come and they gathered and they in the air they gave me a spotted tail from a spotted tail eagle. And they said, so that day I invited a bunch of people over to the house. So I made ham, I made roast chicken, uh, pork roast, made a bunch of different type of items, and I put it on the table. Nobody showed up, so I said, "Hell, I'm going to eat. I'm not going to waste this food." So I took a little bit of each one. And guess what? There was no flavor in any of them. The feast that I was told to do was for the spirits and the energies. They weren't for humans.
All right. It wasn't that
So
you're terrible cook then.
That's when I first learned that that's how you basically say thanks sometimes is by giving them food.
How do they do that then? Because they're on a different realm to
Well, it's
us.
just like, say, for instance, if you have a sucker fish, it just sucks it in. So when they come in, they breathe it in.
Right.
They don't go through their nose with a straw. The other thing that reminded me too is that I got a little bit upset the other day where you had this individual who claimed to be have Cherokee blood, and this tribe in Canada challenged him. Now, this man was a writer, an author, and he did things to benefit Native people. Everything he did was for the Native people. And this tribe criticized him, said, "You're not a Native American Indian. You don't have no Cherokee blood." And this, I looked at it and I said, how far has the Native American people gone to allow themselves to be called Native American Indians to be separated from the human race? I said, what they should be doing is following the rules and regulations that were given to us long ago when they said the tribes would break up. They would leave Turtle Island. But when they come back, they'll represent 3 different colors, but they'll be upside down. They'll have forgotten the teachings of the old ways of the Red Road. So it's your responsibility to take them and teach them how to be indigenous again. So as long as we sit there and use Native American Indians as a crutch, how are we going to get people from different cultures to learn about the original culture? By criticizing people, and then they get mad and they stop doing things for Native people. I was at a meeting and there was, when I was at the Justice Department, and there was a conflict going on in Pine Ridge. So I went in there, and Stanley Looking Elk was the tribal chair at the time. We're real close friends. So we sat there, and then we had about, I would say maybe 50, 60 Indigenous people there. And this one elderly man woke up, or stood up and said, "How do we sit there and how do we accept what you're saying?" They said, "These people that have come here to try to help us, we don't want their help." So I turned to Stanley. I said, "In Lakota, I want you to tell this elderly person exactly, don't change my words, exactly what I said." I said, "If people come from Washington to help you and you criticize them, they no longer become friends, they become enemies. So if you sit there and criticize them like you're doing now, how do you expect them to help you? How do you expect them to learn the old ways? How do you get them to respect the cultural beliefs of the native tribes?" And the guy just sat there and looked at me, and in Lakota, he said, "You're right." He said, "I like you." You know who that person was? Frank Footscrow.
Who? Sorry.
Frank Footscrow, the spiritual leader of the
Oh.
Lakotas. And we became friends after that. But, I've always sat there and I never tried to, how would you say it, glorify things, glorify myself. I'd always sit there and tell people exactly what I'm there for. I'm not there to say things that you want to hear. I'm here to tell you things you don't want to hear, because if you don't hear what you don't want to hear, how are you going to resolve an issue? How are you going to resolve a problem? Because all you want to do is look at the good side. You want to look good, but you don't sit there. You take it and you slash your arm or your artery. And then as the artery, you put a Band-Aid on it. What the hell good is a Band-Aid going to do when you just cut an artery? So when you deal with something, you have to deal with the issue. You have to deal with the negative issues are. And it's like I said, when I was at that school, and the teachers sat there and they said, and the principal came up and said, "I want you to say good things about my staff." I said, "Okay." So we got into the big meeting with all the teachers, and I said, "Now, we got 2 options. According to your principal here, she wants me to tell you good things about you." And I said, "Do you think that's going to resolve the issues that are here? Or would you like to discuss the problems?" and see the problems and then work on resolving those problems. Of course, all the teachers got up and said, we want to resolve the problem. But that's what you do when you deal with things. You have to say, look at the bad side. How do you make the bad side a good side again?
I wholeheartedly agree. That's right.
Yeah.
Whilst you're perhaps coming from a more spiritual sense of it, I do it from a psychological aspect. Yeah. Hence the name of my book. It's not okay to be not okay, because saying to somebody, oh, it's okay to be, feeling shitty is not what people need to hear sometimes.
But what is the reaction by the public?
The people that have read it, they think it's great.
It sounds so good, it can't be true.
But people need straight talking, and we're not talking straight talking like Donald Trump pretends to be straight talking. That's just like telling people what they want to hear. We're on about straight talking in the sense of you may not want to hear it, but this is what you need to hear if you want to heal or grow.
Well, it's just like in a relationship, a man and a wife. You get in an argument, and then they get pissed off at each other. And after about 3 or 4 months, it festers, and you get divorced. Now, if there's an argument, stop, walk away, and come back later when you calm down and say, what did I do to get you upset? So the wife says, boom, 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 or the husband says, boom, boom, boom. And they said, well, I didn't realize. How do you think we can correct this? So you sit there and you have to understand what is causing it, but you also have to understand why the reaction is there.
It can go both ways as well, can't it?
Yeah. So you have to have, it's like I said, you have to have 50-50 in a relationship. It's like the yin and the yang. It don't work until you put them together. And how many people out there are saying, I want to find my soul mate? Well, if you find a soulmate, guess what? They think just like you. So how are you going to get help where you're weak? So you're always trying to find a partner that is strong where you're weak, and where you're strong, they're weak. So then you form the circle, and you become one, because each of you have a gift, and that gift you work together, bring balance.
Similar thing in Jungian psychology, the king, warrior, lover, magician. A lot of people try and go for their equal, so a king would go with a queen, but they learn nothing from there. A king needs to learn from, if I remember rightly, the lover. And the magician needs to learn from the warrior. I know I'm lacking in some of those areas in relationships.
In England, they have some fantastic sayings. I wonder how many people actually stop and listen to what they're saying. Like the one I used to like is, you're doing my head in. Okay, why is he doing my head in if you don't discuss it? But the one I like, fair enough, and then they say, let's take a break. And then they come back when they're calm and they discuss it.
Although we're nearly out of time because we've only got 3 minutes left, you said that a lot of people are looking for their soulmate, but I want to challenge that. If you look at, I mean, this is online stuff on social media, so how much is it reflects on the real world, I don't know. But if you was to take it from what the media says and social media, a lot more people at younger ages are not bothering committed relationships now.
Yeah.
So are people still looking for a soulmate? Is this just another narcissistic, ego-driven people who are being too picky?
Yeah. Well, when you look at it, marriage itself was an invented institution. In order for the church to control you, in order for the state to control you. So they developed marriage, that once you signed that paper and everything, you were theirs.
Well, there was hand fasting before that over here. What did your ancestors do then when they bonded together?
Well, one of the ceremonies was that the woman and the man put their hands together, and you put piece of rawhide loose. And they said, if you can't live together and be compatible within 2 or 3 years, just walk away.
Similar to
Now,
hand fasting, then.
yeah, after 2 years, if you decided that you were bound together, then you took the rawhide and you tied a knot. So that committed you for that lifetime. Now, if you did a double knot, that means you were tied to in the afterlife as well.
And statistically, did people tend to stay together then?
Yeah, I always tell people, I go, nomine padre et filio et spiritus sancti, you're married.
No, answer my question, because we're about to go. In the olden days, did people tend to stay together most of the time then?
Yeah. And then they basically committed to each other for life. There was no paperwork, no nothing. They just that they were there.
So how often did divorces or that type of thing happen?
I think they had the ceremonies of weddings just so that people could eat.
Okay, any final words? Because we are into the last minute, which means we may get cut off.
Just that people, you're going to have to get off. You're going to have to spread the word, because one person can't do it. It takes a lot of person working together to get this message out. And if they don't work in getting this message out and telling people, what's the use? You're, as they say, you're pissing in the wind and it's coming back on you.
Done that before on a warship. You only do it once. Now, am I correct in saying you're taking a break next week, so we won't be here next week?
Yeah, we'll take a break next week.
Yeah, so listeners, viewers, you're getting a week off, but we will be back the week after.
Okay.
Thank you, Wa-Na-Nee-Che. Pleasure as always. Thanks for listening to Straight Talk Sacred Pathway. If you'd like to ask Wa-Na-Nee-Che a question, you can email me at stuart@realityresponsibility.com. The link will be in the description. And don't forget, you can download a powerful guided meditation for free at humancircleoflife.com.